Good to see you.
Hey, Janet. Good to see you too.
So guys, I'm here with Brandon Mancine. He's a good friend, and I came across a video of his. Brandon has kind of had this varied, really fascinating career path, and what I love so much is your story. It came out kind of the other day when you recorded a small snippet on an Instagram video, and I loved it. I loved it so much I wanted to make it part of Janet's Love.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and let that clip play right now. So here's the best part. I think everybody's story is kind of their, I don't know, golden banner. And I think your story is so fascinating, how it came to be and how your supplement company came to be. And I told you after I saw that video on Instagram that it resonated so strongly because there were so many elements of truth in it. And I think your story is genius, and I love the name of your supplement company. So why don't you start a little bit with your background and tell us kind of where you started, how you got into what you do,
Sure. Yeah.
Training. Tell us a little bit about
First, thank you. That was, I hope I live up to your intro there.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, so right out of high school, I went into the Marine Corps. I did 4 years as an infantry Marine, spent some time in anti-terrorism. Coming out of the Marines, found my way into personal training. I got out in June of 2000, officially became a trainer in like 2001, and have been working in the fitness industry since. I met my wife, who you know well, Tara, in around.
Pleasure, Tara's a good friend.
Yeah, met her in 2002, 2003, and we didn't get married until 2011, even though we were around for a while. And we launched our company. We became entrepreneurs officially. Well, no, I'd had some companies that failed before that, but we launched a company in 2011, and we did some specialty items, you know, and they did really well for us. But around 2016, I started to have this idea of a supplement company I wanted to launch, and that is what.
Good dovetail with everything that you.
I'm sorry.
It's such a good dovetail with everything you had done before, and I think it's such a. I love how like path leads us to something else, and then all of a sudden it's like this natural creation. And that's why like everybody's story is so interesting and unique, right? Because sometimes it doesn't have to be mind-blowing. It's just the organic process of where it leads you. So sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Because I never would have thought I would end up owning a supplement company. You know, if you would have, when I got into fitness, you know, I would have been like, no, because, and that's part of the brand is, so the supplement company is I Am Supplement. And it was because I would hear people in the first time I sit down and they're looking to do lifestyle change, which I don't even like the term lifestyle change. I like lifestyle evolution, because you're, you know, always growing, right? It's not just one sudden change. So I would sit down with them the first time and they would start asking about what supplement should I take, when their whole nutrition was a wreck, right? So we need to start with your food. What's your, you know, your base there, because supplement by definition means in addition to. You know, it's not where you start, right? Supplements are intended to fill gaps. So that's kind of the first level of I Am Supplement. But
And
then
just
the other
being
side,
known, I love it because it has such a higher meaning, whether it was intended to do this or not. But like to be part of I Am Presence is like a consciousness. And what I love about the name is like, I feel like this is the stuff I really love to talk about, especially when I'm behind the chair. Like, I Am Presence is source energy, it's higher consciousness. If you've ever read any Wayne Dyer, his books speak about, I mean,
yep,
many authors talk about I Am Presence, but I love it so much because it also has this double-sidedness for your company of like
absolutely.
physical portion.
Yeah, and that is intended. That's part of it. That's
I love it.
when you look at the logos or the labels, I am is branded all over the product to remind you of, yeah. And I mean that was, I mean there's definitely parallels in, in training my clients there, because if they're ever having a rough workout or something, we can talk about the end goal, but then we have to come back to the moment and what needs to be done in
Yeah.
today's workout. Yeah. And then there's also just the idea of what is on the label is what's in the product. It's not, there's no filler in there. There's none of that stuff. So that carries into the building the idea of this company and the products I wanted to launch with. The intention was to launch January of 2018, and then November 20th of 2017, I was hit by an intoxicated driver, and while I was trying to take my dog to the vet, and I was pinned between two cars. Had my right leg pinned between two cars, and that's yeah. So that derailed a lot. Being an independent trainer, I there was a while where I couldn't work. The driver who hit me was uninsured.
Oh my God.
His dad's truck, the insurance had lapsed 2 days prior on that, so we had to. It was a financial hit as well. Yeah, we had almost lost the company that we already had, but we made it through that. It took a while. I was in ICU. I was in the hospital for exactly a week. Had to work on walking again, but I was obviously I was so angry at the time. But I
Well,
think,
yeah, and I have to say, Tara did an incredible job to document where you were, because I think that was such a big part of your story. And what I found so fascinating was that this wasn't the first time in your life that you had to learn how to walk again. I mean,
yeah,
so the fact that it happens once is whoa. The fact that it happens twice is absolutely crazy. And what's that about? And it just so happens that your specialty is in physical strength and helping people and movement and getting stronger, right? It just
yeah,
blows me away. So tell people a little bit about that parallel in your life.
yeah. So when I was first grade, I believe, 5 or 6 years old, I can barely remember this. The majority of what I remember about it is what my mom has told me, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I was having trouble breathing, and I had epiglottitis, which is it got popular. There was a comedian that was hospitalized for it a couple years ago. It got popular in the news, but so my dad was working night shift at the time, so my mom called him. He came home. They took me to the hospital, and then I was life flighted to. I grew up in Pittsburgh. Life flighted to Children's Hospital, and had to undergo some emergency procedures. So
And so what is it exactly that makes you stop breathing? Do you know? Like what is the
It's a closing of the windpipe. It
okay.
starts to I don't actually know what caused it. I've
Yeah.
never looked into that, but the windpipe starts to close, and if it's not addressed, I remember one of the stories my mom loves to tell about it is uh, they had to put tubes down my throat so I could breathe, right?
Right.
So they put them down, and then I had I guess sat up and pulled the tubes out as soon as the doctors turned around. So then, yeah, so yeah, that's the kind of kid I was, and I definitely see that in Gavin just as
Who is your adorable little boy?
yeah, yes. So it's um, so they had to put him back down. I had to go through that twice, so that was rough. But then for whatever reason, I don't I don't know if it was intentional or what, but I ended up going into a coma.
Whoa.
So, and during that time, they had told my parents that they, you know, they didn't know what the current case was, but obviously, they have to give worst case scenarios. So they had talked to them about the potential for brain damage due to lack of oxygen, yeah, and all that stuff. So I was out for a while, and when I woke up, my mom was there, and she had a new sweater on, and she said that when I woke up, I looked at her, and my first words were, "Where'd you get the sweater?" and and so yeah, she says that
Love it.
that's when she knew I was going to be okay. So yeah, yeah. So
Love
from
it.
that, I had been I don't know what the right term is, dormant so long. It's just been laying there so long.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure-footed. I didn't have, I wasn't able to walk and, stand like I had when
Well, your
before it
mind
all.
couldn't make the connection with your body yet, right? Because you
Yeah,
have been still for
yeah.
so long, right?
I don't think it was more than a week, but it was just,
That's a long time.
yeah. So one of the things I remember strongly about the whole situation was them putting me in it wasn't a wheelchair, but it was like a seated cart,
Yeah.
and it was it was rough. I was just
But it was really hard at that age.
yeah, yeah, at 5 years old,
Yeah.
around there, it was just that was a fear, a deep fear. So you know uh yeah, I remember that, and overcoming that, and having to learn to walk for the second time in my life there, not knowing there'd be a third time 35 years down the line. um it and hopefully it's the last time.
Yeah.
But
We're good on that,
you know
right?
yeah, it's been there, done that. Yeah, so that's
You know, it's so interesting to go through that more than once. I can't help but think, I've had uh, physical challenges with my back my whole life, and that's kind of led me to learn more about my inflammation, which has led me to learn more about my autoimmune issues, which now I understand my inflammation is a driver of my imbalance, right? Which
mhm,
is based in food and stress for me. The higher my cortisol, the more that I eat that I'm reactive to, the higher the inflammation, the less I can do because my autoimmune lights up more and more and more and more. So when you were going through that, I can't help but think how, like, it's intensely hard, but for somebody to have it twice, you must have been given so much insight to many things. Like, the second time it happened after you were hit, right? I will never forget watching your progress, thinking, holy goodness, to put it mildly. I can't imagine what this feels like. And I had no idea that you had gone through this once before. And thinking about, because I always used to panic about my back and not being able to move relative to what I did. So, like,
Yeah,
I
well,
feel like you shifted your business and morphed a little, right? A lot came out of it the second time for really good stuff, right? After
it
the
it
initial.
did. Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, so for the second time, well, first, uh, yeah, nobody really knew about that first time besides, my family, a handful of close friends, and obviously my wife. Because I'd never talked about it publicly.
Right.
Um, the
And
the sec
just reference the video that we played earlier, you reference a couple of things that you've never talked about before either, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd seen a lot of, as a lot of people did in the fitness industry when all this craziness started, they started putting workouts out online because I thought, well, maybe I could offer something to people to help.
Yeah.
And initially there were some people saying, yeah, great, thank you, and they were following along. But then some people were like, I was getting messages like, what, I'm not motivated to, you're putting it out there, but I'm not motivated. What's going to happen? People not knowing, people going through the grief process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that video, I just talked about, the experience of it, the experience that I went through in the crash in 2008, 2009, and the this the difference. But I don't think I didn't say this in the video, but it's just the difference between simple and easy, right?
Mm.
What you're about to go through is not easy, but it is simple. Just focus on the basics, and that's all that needs to happen. Hack away the unessentials for sure.
My big thing right now that I'm learning, top thing, and someone brought it up in a group conference for an industry webinar, and he's one of the leading business counselors.
Yep.
He said, we have got to stay in focus. Two baskets: what can you control and what you cannot control. The
Right.
things you cannot control, do not focus on them. Look at the things you can control and decide what you're going to work on a little bit at a time. But don't try to get
Yeah.
into the whole basket all at once.
And what are your strengths?
And easy, right?
Right. What are your strengths that you can really bring to those things that you can control, and who can you partner with to complement your strengths and complement yours and theirs?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but to something you said earlier about, comparing the two times I went through that, the first time, obviously there, if somebody asked me how I got through it, I would have to, not even remembering them, say it was probably the doctors and nurses,
Yeah.
which, looking at today, yeah, they're some amazing people.
Beyond.
I'm sorry?
Beyond.
Yeah. For the second time, for what happened in November of 2017, I can tell you there was, of course, my wife, my family and my amazing circle of friends that helped me. But a large part of be, without them, I don't think I would have made it through. For me personally, it was uh, my experience in the Marine Corps and the the prior struggles I'd gone through. There was a pretty funny, what ended up being funny situation when I was hit. Like I said earlier, I was supposed to take my dog to the vet, drop her off. Tara was working in Austin that day. I think she was with you. And then she was supposed to come home and pick our dog Piggy up from the vet. And then I had an evening class I had to go teach for a buddy of mine who runs a gym. So when I was hit, Piggy was in the back of the truck. Piggy's our dog. I knew I needed to call Tara. I didn't want her driving home stressed. So I'm laying on the sidewalk. I grabbed my phone and I made a practice call to my buddy Dan, who runs the gym, to see if I could stay calm on the phone. He didn't answer, so I left him a voicemail saying, "Hey man, not gonna make the 4 o'clock class. I was just hit by a truck. Give me a call later." So yeah, when he came to visit me in the hospital, he was like, I listened to that message and I was like, is he kidding? Like, but so then I realized I could stay calm on the phone, and I called Tara and explained to her that I had a car accident, and instead of going to pick Piggy up, she needed to come straight home, and kind of left out some details. And yeah, so her and Dan love to always joke about that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
You're like, remember when Brandon called us?
Yeah. Well, they always say I went right into Marine mode.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
I can only imagine. I mean, clearly being trained as a Marine, you're given a lot of scenarios and a ton of different, like, here's how you have to be. And that kind of, that override, it's like a practice, wouldn't you say? Like,
yeah, well,
learn how to like get in the zone, block it all out, be right there. And I'm sure you were in shock initially, right? And I'm sure that just kind of kicked in, went into overdrive, right? Because now you're in like survival, fight or flight, right?
When I was hit, I remember seeing my leg between the bumpers, and then the truck slowly backed away. I looked at the guy in the car. I yelled, I won't repeat what I yelled at him. But then it was obvious to me that he was high. He was on something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I the one of the keys we're taught in an emergency situation is not to treat it like an emergency situation. You focus on the basics. It's always going to come back to that.
So
what needs to happen?
Baskets, right?
Yeah. What needs to happen? Yeah. So I won't bore you with the details, but just
it's so fascinating, Brandon.
Came back, made sure my leg surprisingly wasn't broken. There was 3 severe bone bruises, so I fell back, made sure my leg wasn't broken. Then I remembered Piggy was there, made sure she was taken care of, and there was a bunch of good people that just happened to be around that showed up and helped me out and made sure the guy didn't. He tried to take off at one point. So.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So when you got out of that, because I watched your recovery process. So learning how to recover was phenomenal, right? Watching you in your process. How much of it did you have to like research and learn, and how much, because you were in ICU.
Yep.
Then you came out of ICU, and how much longer did you stay at the hospital? And then like, how long was that period? A couple of weeks?
I was in ICU for 4 days. And then for another 3 days, I was in standard care at University Medical here in San Antonio.
Crazy.
I had so 3 severe bone bruises and severe crush syndrome to um, my right leg.
So you can't move like you normally move. But what I do remember you doing was increased intense detoxification, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
So you would
So
go
it was,
to a sauna for prolonged periods of time, right?
so that, well, the first couple of weeks, it was, I couldn't have my leg below my hip for more than 30 seconds. It
Because,
would pressure. It would feel like it was, and it couldn't take the pressure of blood going down there,
okay,
because all the muscle was basically destroyed.
shredded.
Every majority of fibers were exploded, and that's why I was in ICU. Was actually they're monitoring for heart failure. When that happens,
Oh.
the what is inside the fiber, like, not, again, don't want to bore details. What's inside the fiber is in the bloodstream, and my
Travel to
creatine
the
kinase
heart.
levels, yes, so it can cause heart failure.
Whoa.
And so my levels, I think, were 9 times what they look, what where they start to get concerned for it at one point. But then once it came back down, then I was out of ICU, and it was at first just practicing with a walker, then graduate to crutches, and over a couple of weeks till I could get to one crutch. And the day before, November 19th, I was squatting 405 pounds. November 21st, my workout was to walk 10 feet. So
So pause, because that's what I thought was so. And maybe I'm wrong. Did any doctor ever weigh in on the level of your physical development, like how tight and like strong you were having that accident helping you recover? Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, I know
absolutely.
your marine mind helped you recover. I know that. That goes without saying. But the second part was, this could have, had this happened to someone else who might not have been in such physical strength, would they have been able to recover like this? I mean, I know
So
you don't know, you're not a doctor, but like.
well, there was one of the doctors that told me. He said, look, there's a certain percentage of the population that would have lost their leg here, and the majority of the population would have had broken bones. And actually, on the way to the hospital, the paramedics that had loaded me into the ambulance, they had called Tara from my phone. So when she answered, she was expecting, which I hate that she had to deal with that. She was expecting to hear my voice. Whew.
I know.
1 second.
It's so much. It's crazy. Like, I know you going over this is really intense, and I so appreciate you talking to us about this, because I feel like in such a crazy time right now. We're recording this during the COVID crisis, and that's
Yep.
why I decided to start doing some of this, because I think people's stories are a vehicle to help others. And my whole mission that is a big part of my life and my career personally, that I hadn't told many people about, I've only mentioned it, that I think service to others, however that comes, whatever form that's in, could be spiritual or religious, or a personal trainer or a hairstylist, or a restaurant that has a really big mission and vision statement to help people have a moment of joy and just ease. I mean, it could be A to Z, right? But
Yep.
I think people's stories can be of service in such a profound way. And there's always something different that everybody's going to attach to, right? It's not that
Agreed.
everybody's going to be like, whoa, look at this dude, he's like, he was way worse than me. Like, I don't even mean that. I just mean,
Well, no,
there's
no.
going to be an independent thread that could be a wide variety. And I know that this is so much to kind of review and talk about all at once, but like, I'm so grateful for this, really, because I think it's going to bring a lot to many people in different forms.
Thank you. I totally agree. This is why people love movies like Rocky and stories like, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Yeah. So,
she gets a call from the
from
paramedic.
the paramedic who loaded me up in the ambulance, and they told her that my leg and my hip were broken, because that's
That's
when
what
the scene that they came upon, that was the logical conclusion.
Right.
So so there was one of the doctors, I remember telling me, I was fortunate with the exercise background that I had, and the parallels there are, to times like this, whether it's physically challenging yourself daily, not necessarily daily, consistently, intellectually challenging yourself consistently, emotionally challenging yourself consistently, but the patterns for growth are the same in all those different realms. It's different tasks that you lay on top of there to
100%.
Yeah, I mean, and that all starts with, sitting down and getting the vision of who you want to be, and then the path of how you get there kind of will lay itself out, and you just got to follow those steps and make the mistakes along the way.
Yeah, it's so true. A couple of really great people that I love, one of the things that keeps repeating over and over and over is the consistency of how you decide to show up. Meaning, if high performance people come to their life, not just an event, not just work, not just personal, but they come to their life, which is every aspect, in a certain way all the time in a regular practice. Example would be routine, consistency, certain practices, right? Whether
Yep.
it's meditation and movement, that's the best combo, and then mapping out how you want to be consistently. I think that is what leads you to that high performance kind of resonation, right?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
So what I love is you get better. And I think there's no way in, pardon my French, hell, you could have made it through that without having the pre-existing body you had leading into that accident. And then it was so cool because I watched you do all of this intense sauna work after you got to a certain point to move toxins out, right?
Well,
Take
the
that
sauna
just a
served.
little.
The sauna served a couple of reasons. I first started reading and hearing through video the benefits of sauna from Dr. Rhonda Patrick. Her website is Found My Fitness, and she's on Instagram and Twitter with Found My Fitness. But just when you can't exercise, if you're injured for any reason, 20 minutes a day of, I think it's at least 3 times a week, will maintain muscle mass for if you can't exercise.
Fascinating, because you know what I also was thinking? Like, so I don't do a lot of hard workouts because my autoimmune body type, it kind of backfires on me, right? It tends to come back at me in a way of continuing to break me down. Like my body doesn't have a good recovery standpoint. But what I started doing was, so I can't even imagine 20 minutes, but I started doing like 5 to 8 minutes.
Which is actually fun, yeah.
And the ease of my body gently warming up even more without intense physical, and that's when I'm at the gym and I do a little walking on the treadmill, and then I run for like 3 minutes, and then I walk, and then I run for 3 minutes, and then I walk. So I kind of pulse it back and forth. But if I were to just go run for like 40 minutes, I would feel like crap after. Pardon my French. But the sauna, I can't even imagine you doing it for 20 minutes, because literally at the end of 8 minutes, I am like, get me out of here. I'm about ready to pass out.
What temperature are you at?
You know, it's preset by the gym, so I don't even know if I've really noticed. I think it's
Okay.
pretty high because I know after a while, um, like literally my nostrils are so hot, they burn. So
Yeah.
I know it's like a standard temperature that's good for everybody, but to me it feels really hot. But
Are you?
I do ozone sauna for detoxification. And I know sometimes I can barely deal with 109. Now, ozone with the temperature is very magnifying in a detox perspective for your body. But it's just fascinating to me because 20 minutes when you're already injured, did it feel good or did you have different phases when you were in there? How it felt?
It felt great. It was well, first, it, the temperatures were usually between 160 and 180.
Yeah.
With the gyms that I was going to, it's a dry sauna, so it's not like a steam room
Yeah.
sauna. I'm not familiar with ozone sauna. I'll look that up. But it was so just like a regular dry sauna, at 160, 180, and doing 20 minutes there. I would normally put on just a podcast or something and just sit there and listen.
Nice.
It gets uncomfortable, especially in the second half. But it's I think what helped was understanding why I was there, understanding the benefit, and yeah.
Fascinating. Okay, so you did some sauna, and then did you have to do any physical therapy or did you kind of do it yourself?
I did physical therapy for about 3 months.
And that just
Having
bridged a gap?
Yeah. So just working on. I remember there was a point where they had just little ropes tied in knots on the floor, and I would have to grab them with my feet and move them from one point to the other. So just you know, uh, um, I still have some parts of my leg that are numb, but in terms of abilities, it's it's all there, right? So
Crazy. So we're how long after the accident now? How much time has passed?
2.5 years almost.
Okay. And you're back to your full workout ability pretty much, or what would you say?
Pretty much. The whole the question I would always get was, are you back to normal? And there's a bunch of jokes that come from that. Right. I never don't think I ever was normal.
You're like, mull that over.
Yeah. The so it was 8 months later, I did my first track workout, which sprints have always been one of my favorite, or have long been one of my favorite workouts.
Yeah.
It took 18 months later before I was squatting 405 again. So that was a benchmark that was really important for me. So yeah, I got back to that. I can run. There is one tendon that's not that was detached. That's, I guess, the only thing. My right calf is shaped a little different. Not that that matters, but in terms of ability, I've the right calf feels a little tight. The right knee feels a little loose. But in terms of what I can do, I don't think it's. I think I'm back to normal, for lack of a better way to put it.
So then you started looking at other supplemental ways to help, right?
Right.
I know you were always in a full comprehensive health area for yourself and your clients.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how I Am supplement came to be, and then like philosophy, idea.
Sure. So after the accident, well, a week before the accident is I had actually hired a graphic designer to come up with the logos, and I've still got the email of these are the preliminary things, and then that was all kind of put on hold there. And somewhere through the rehab process, I was like, I've really got to make this happen. You know, this is if I don't make I am happen now, then it never was true anyway, right? So it was like this, yeah, this now it has to happen. So, you know, like I said, we had to a lot to deal with, not just from the physical side of the accident, but from like financial side and
Yes.
you know, medical bills had to get paid and all that. So it all, you know, got pushed back and pushed back. But once all that was settled, we were able to get the products launched in February of this year, February of 2020, with thank you very much, a whey protein and a collagen peptide formula.
Okay, so what I think is so fascinating, when you and I were talking last week, I said, you know, oh, I love protein powders because hairstylists rely a lot on quick meals during the day because literally, God willing, you're so booked that you don't have time to like sit down and chew a meal.
Yep.
So
trainers are the same way. Yep.
totally, we go to liquid.
All the service industry. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's something that I love so much. Ready, everybody? From 2000 to 2017, the service industry in the United States made up 77% of the GDP.
Yeah.
Okay? So let's just mull that over for a minute. Okay.
That blew me away when you told me that, but
it's huge.
Yeah, I would have never guessed it was that high. I mean, I knew it was substantial, but
it's actually even higher now because that was 2017, right?
Yeah.
So when you were talking about protein, I was like, oh, that's fascinating. I love it. But then I was like, oh, I can't really have whey because it bothers my stomach. I'm gluten-free. And you had an incredible piece of information that I thought was so important. Your whey, give me a little description about it.
There's different types of whey protein out there. Mine is 100% whey isolate.
Yeah.
Which it has basically all the lactose removed. So it is okay for people who are lactose intolerant to use. A lot of times when people try whey and they get gastric distress, it's because it's most likely a whey concentrate, which is a cheaper form of whey protein. And it doesn't fully get digested, and so you're not absorbing as much of the protein as you
so it's
want
for you.
And it's going to cause some gastric distress.
Yeah.
So even with mine being 100% whey isolate, I've added a digestive enzyme to help get it, as you know, as much as possible absorbed into your bloodstream and have no gastric distress.
Because that's huge. I take digestive enzymes. That was one of the things that I learned kind of in my process. When your microbiome, which is a whole nother discussion we will talk about another time, but when your microbiome is a little distressed and or not optimal, which I think most of us are in that zone, but we have no idea we are.
Right.
Digestive enzyme really makes a huge difference at each meal. Literally, I eat anything and I take an enzyme just to help my body absorb it. Otherwise, because my microbiome has gotten much better, but it doesn't really pull out as much nutrient from anything I'm eating, whenever, healthy or otherwise, as much as it should. So for your protein powder to have it in it is just genius, because a lot of people don't take digestive enzymes. A lot of people don't even know about it. They're like, what's that?
Yeah. So I forget where I heard this, but there's somebody out there that said it's no longer you are what you eat, you are what you absorb.
100%.
Which, yeah.
I think you are what you eat for our grandparents' generation, or like our parents' parents and their parents, like one or two generations back. That was true. I think we've screwed up our food source too much. Again, another discussion. But I think we've got too much in our food now that our body is like, what is this? How do we do this? And, you know, the trick is, I think that they've shown children being born now have a lesser predisposition, like a lesser um, microbiome than even one generation back, right? Because
Yeah.
our food source has shifted so much. We've gotten so far away from farm fresh to table, seasonal foods, what's fresh, you know, no GMO. We're so away
Yeah.
from that, right?
And that's, yeah, with Gavin, you know, we were really, I mean, you know how Tara is when she wants to learn about a subject,
I
she
know.
dives in 100%.
Killer.
So yeah, so you know, we've been really strict about, you know, during her pregnancy, well, leading up to it as well, during what she ate and what he's eating now. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's huge. It's such a gift to your kids.
Yeah.
So you have a whey protein and then you have a collagen peptide. Tell us a little bit about that.
So collagen was a big part of my rehab process after the accident. It
Because
was because it's great. Collagen got really popular over the last decade, I'll say, for anti-aging benefits, especially, you know all about it in your industry,
yeah,
right?
I love it.
Uh,
I started using it maybe 3-ish years ago, consistently in my water every day. It has so many beneficial properties. I mean, I don't kn- for me, I'm 49, I'm perimenopause. It helps hair, it helps skin. I've noticed so many things that it's just helped me, like on my own process. So, and you know, I'm not a doctor, but it's just what I've noticed.
yeah, and well, first off, nobody believes you're 49, so you
God
stop
bless
lying
them.
there. But uh, yeah, I mean, I'm not a researcher,
Yeah, me
but
either.
I've been in fitness and nutrition for 20 years, and there's guys that I follow and read up on. Um, Charles Poliquin, who passed away, I believe about 2 years ago now, would have injured athletes. He trained gold medalists in the Olympics and all kinds of different sports, the best of the best. So I, for years, had read a lot of stuff about what he did, what the supplement protocols he took people through when they were recovering, and after my accident, just dug into that even more. So I was in the early parts of it. I mean, there were, I think it was like 60 pills a day and then different powders that I was taking on top of eating well to expedite the rehab process. And
Yeah.
through that one, I even got the joke. I got the joke twice, once in the emergency room and then once through the rehab, of people referring to me as Wolverine because I didn't have a broken bone and because I was recovering faster than they expected. Which,
The beard helps. I can't remember if you had it then, but I'm just saying
with that,
the beard helps. I can't remember if you had it
yeah,
then, but
I did, yeah. Well, it was great. It was a great ego boost. It helped my ego a
you're
lot.
like, I'll take it. Thanks. I'm not at my
Yeah,
best. I'll take it.
right. Yeah. So, but collagen was a big part of it,
Yeah.
and it's just been shown to help with injury rehab, but it's also great for injury prevention. It helps keep
Yes,
soft tissue, gummy resilience, and yeah, great for ligaments, tendons, all
totally.
that good
And
stuff.
we all know the more inflammation you have, the more that your soft connective tissue tends to be a little more deteriorated. I kind of, that's what I've noticed in my own body, that the higher my markers are, the more my soft connective tissue kind of plays out in irritation or pain or
Yeah, with systemic inflammation. Yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Uh, yeah. It's so I had initially, before all this, had not intended to launch a collagen formula, but as I was using it and reading more and more on it, it's especially for how popular intense exercise is now. It
Yes.
just more and more people need it or could use it. could use it. I don't like to use the word need, but you know, what's beneficial? What can we use?
Totally.
Yeah. So so that's why I launched it. You know, I have a bunch of products I will be launching down the line.
Love it.
But that's why I went with those two.
Yeah, building blocks, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Sustainer for nutrients, and then something that helps build and repair, right?
Yep.
I think it's genius. So look, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing your story, and tell me the name of your training website in case anybody wants to get in touch with you.
Branded Mancini Fitness. I
Love it.
think, yeah, we're in the. I probably can't see it there. It doesn't look like you can see it too well.
Love it.
But brandedmancinifitness.com.
Great. And even though you're in San Antonio, the beautiful part is you really service clients all over the country, right?
I do. All over the world now. I have clients I've trained in Germany too. So
Fabulous.
yeah, it's yeah.
Similar time
so
difference, but I'm just saying it's great.
Yeah. For the supplements, I am Sups. IAMSUPPS. Actually, 1P or 2Ps would both work. Whatever gets you there.
Love it.
And it's I am Sups with 2Ps on Instagram.
Great. So you know what, Brandon? I cannot wait to follow up and find out more about what's going on with your path and the company. I thank you so much for sharing your story and your information.
Thank you.
Just being so real and all cards on the table. And you know what? There is not a quantifiable value right now in being vulnerable with the greater world. So I thank you so much for all your courage and just speaking from the heart. You're so wonderful. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
Back at you, Janet. Thank you so much.
Yeah, take care.
You too.
Okay, awesome.